The following day, Ethan arrived at the rehearsal room early, hoping for a moment of peace before the inevitable chaos of working with Lucas. The familiar sight of sheet music and the polished piano brought him some comfort, but the unease from yesterday still lingered. He couldn't believe Claire had paired him with someone as reckless as Lucas Moreno. What kind of fusion could possibly come from someone like him? He was halfway through running scales when the door swung open with a loud creak. Lucas strolled in, looking as casual as ever, a lazy smile on his face and his guitar case slung over his back. He didn't seem the least bit fazed by the tension hanging in the air. "Morning, Maestro," Lucas greeted, dropping his case on the floor with a thud. "Ready for our little duet?" Ethan ignored the teasing tone in Lucas's voice and continued playing, his fingers dancing across the keys in a precise, practiced manner. "I don't have time for games," he said, not looking up. "Let's just get this over with." Lucas laughed softly, unbothered. "Man, you really need to loosen up. Music's supposed to be fun, you know." Ethan's hands faltered for a brief second before he recovered, but Lucas had already noticed. "I take my music seriously," he replied tightly, closing the lid of the piano with a soft click. "We're not here to play around. The event is in 2 weeks, and we need something polished, something that represents both styles but still works together." "Right," Lucas said, sitting down on a chair and tuning his guitar. "Something that shows off your fancy technique while keeping the soul of the music alive." Ethan shot him a sharp look. "This isn't about showing off." "Could have fooled me." Lucas strummed a few notes on his guitar, his fingers moving effortlessly across the strings. The casual melody he played felt wild, unpredictable, everything Ethan had spent years avoiding. "Okay," Ethan said, pulling out the sheet music he'd prepared. "I worked on something last night. It's a combination of classical piano and guitar, but I've arranged it so the guitar part follows a clear structure. No improvisation." Lucas raised an eyebrow as Ethan handed him the music. "You actually wrote this out?" "Of course I did. We can't leave it to chance. This is a high-profile event, not one of your underground gigs." Lucas smirked, flipping through the pages of Ethan's composition. "Let me guess, you're the kind of guy who doesn't believe in anything unless it's written down." Ethan crossed his arms, ignoring the jab. "It's called preparation, something you might want to try." Lucas chuckled, setting the sheet music aside without much thought. "I'll give it a shot, but let's try something real first." Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but before he could speak, Lucas started playing. The guitar's raw, melodic sound filled the room, echoing off the walls. Ethan listened, his irritation slowly fading as he realized Lucas wasn't just aimlessly strumming. There was something intentional about the way he played, even if it didn't follow the rules Ethan was used to. The music was rough around the edges, but there was a fire in it that caught Ethan off guard. For a moment he just stood there, watching, as Lucas lost himself in the music, his fingers moving with ease across the strings. When Lucas finished, he looked up, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "See? Music's not just about notes on a page. It's about what you feel in the moment." Only Ethan was silent for a beat, unsure of how to respond. He didn't want to admit it, but there was something undeniably powerful about Lucas's style. It was the opposite of everything Ethan had been taught, yet it worked in its own chaotic way. Still, he wasn't ready to let go of his control. "That's great and all," he said, clearing his throat, "but we still need structure. We can't just play whatever we feel like. There's an audience expecting something professional." Lucas gave him a lazy grin, leaning back in his chair. "Why not both? We've got 2 different styles, right? Maybe we should meet somewhere in the middle." "Oh," Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Lucas said, standing up and walking over to the piano, "we start with your structure. You play it how you like. Then we add in some of my flair, let it breathe a little." Ethan hesitated. The thought of giving up even a little control over the piece made him uncomfortable. But Lucas's playing had a strange pull, like it was daring him to step outside his comfort zone. He sat back down at the piano, staring at the keys for a moment. Fine, he said finally. We'll try it, but just this once. Right? Lucas grinned. That's the spirit. Ethan began playing the arrangement he had written, his fingers moving smoothly over the keys as the familiar melody filled the room. It was structured, clean, precise, just as he'd intended. But as he played, Lucas joined in with his guitar, weaving his own melody into the piece. At first, the two sounds clashed, but as the music continued, something unexpected happened. The rough edges of Lucas's guitar blended with the smooth flow of Ethan's piano, creating a sound that was both wild and controlled, chaotic and harmonious. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. When they finished, the room was filled with a heavy silence, the last note still hanging in the air. Ethan stared at the piano, feeling a strange mix of frustration and excitement. He wasn't sure. Lucas leaned against the piano, his grin widening. Not bad, huh? Ethan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. It's a start, but we need to clean it up a lot. Lucas laughed, that playful glint never leaving his eyes. I knew you'd come around, Maestro. Ethan rolled his eyes, but for the first time, he felt a flicker of something other than irritation toward Lucas. Maybe, just maybe, there was something to this idea of merging their worlds. But he wasn't about to admit that out loud.